1 week after Yagura's death, the land of water was happy. The news of Yagura's death at the hands of Naruto Senju spread through the whole country like a wildfire. News that a single shinobi conquered the Mist Village and defeated their leader was the talk of the whole country. A single man had laid siege to the Mist Village and took down 2,000 shinobi and their leader, Yagura, Jinchuriki of the Sanbi, the three-tailed turtle. Stories of how Naruto rose into the sky and controlled the thunders, how he made large meteorites rain down from the sky, how he created waves of black fire, and summoned the Kyuubi himself to help. Naruto Senju, the god of shinobi as he was being called. Now, his legend had just started. Years of this war had left the country weak and isolated from the other nations. A few bloodline users that never took part in the war were finally making their way back to the village, since they had no other place to live. The Mist Village was weak, but they would recover in time. The daimyo was also replaced with a more competent one. Flashback, Water Daimyo's estate. It was the following day after Naruto had conquered the Mist Village. After the Bloodline army had settled in and everything was taken care of, there was only one thing left to end this pathetic war. A coup against the Water Daimyo who funded this war. The dragons and Mei were standing outside of the daimyo's estate. It was night, and everyone was on edge. If this worked, then the war would truly be over. In with the new, out with the old. The Water Daimyo had got along with this war and even supported and funded Yagura. His unfair reign had to come to an end. "How do you want to do this?" Naruto asked Mei, who brought her hand to her chin. Mei looked at Naruto to see his blood-red eyes glowing in the dark. She still couldn't believe that Naruto was this powerful. Poor Chojuro fainted when Naruto had regrouped with him after defeating Yagura. Naruto had conquered the Mist Village, and in the end, he wasn't even tired. He didn't even have a hair out of place or a scratch on his armor. "I'm done playing games with him," Mei said in a serious voice. "We are taking the front door," Mei said and jumped out of the shadows. The moment Mei touched the ground, she blurred out of sight and the two guards guarding the main gate dropped to the floor unconscious. "Works for me," Naruto said with a slight wave of a hand, ordered the dragons to advance. "Lava release, melting apparition jutsu," Mei said and released a wave of lava from her mouth. The lava covered the gate and started melting it. After a few seconds, the once rock-hardened gate was nothing more than something melted on the ground. The alarm echoed through the whole estate as several shinobi dropped from the main tower to defend their leader. Several samurais also stepped outside from their ground houses and surrounded the individuals. The samurais took out the swords and grasped them strongly when they recognized just what they were up against. "I am here for your daimyo," Mei yelled loudly from the ground. She enhanced her voice with chakra to make sure he would hear her. Everyone waited patiently until the wooden door burst open and the daimyo stepped out into the balcony, high up in the daimyo's tower. He must have thought he was safe up there. He even had his traditional blue hat on. "You dare attack me?" the daimyo roared from his tower. He was pleased that the war had ended, but he didn't count on being attacked by the same person that won the war. "You have the nerve of saying that to us after what you've done?" Mei hissed towards the daimyo. "You supported and funded Yagura into this war, and for what?" Mei asked, narrowing her eyes at the leader of her country. "You were supposed to lead this country into betterment, not death," Mei stated, releasing killer intent. "Mizukage is in charge of his village. It's his job to ensure the safety of his village and country. If he says that we need to eliminate these bloodline scum, then so be it." The Water Daimyo sneered at Mei, who tightened her fist, almost drawing out blood. "They were innocent people," Mei yelled. How could he say such a thing? He was sheltered in this mansion. He had servants for everything. It were these so-called monsters that fought for the safety and betterment of this country. "You ungrateful bastard," Mei roared and turned to the shinobi standing in front of her. "Stand down," Mei ordered towards the shinobi. After all, they were Mist Shinobi, and as such, they were under her command and her command only. Not even the Water Daimyo had the authority to order shinobi around. That right belonged to the Kage, and the Kage alone. "They won't listen to you. You are not the Mizukage," the daimyo happily stated. "And even if you were, they would answer to me and me alone," the daimyo said. "I am Mei Terumi, the 5th Mizukage," Mei stated loud and clear, with enough authority in her voice to make sure she got her point across. "I order you to stand down," Mei ordered. "You will not," the daimyo ordered. and the shinobi found themselves in a pickle. "Kill her," the daimyo ordered, and the shinobi and samurai were about to jump into action when another voice interrupted them. "You're welcome to try," Naruto said in a stoic voice as he made his presence known, stepping out of the shadows. Every single shinobi took a step back, noticing the presence of the man that single-handedly defeated Yagura and conquered the whole Mist Village. Every shinobi gulped. After all, standing in front of them was Naruto Senju, god of all shinobi. "You," the daimyo hissed towards Naruto, who simply raised an eyebrow at his tone. Naruto raised his head to face the daimyo with a bored tone. "I've got a bone to pick with the fire daimyo. How dare he allow Konoha to interfere in another country's affairs," the daimyo said. The water daimyo yet seemed to realize in what situation he was in. The state of this country was pathetic. You allowed some deranged fool to start a war, and you didn't have the balls to stand up to him. Naruto making the water daimyo seethe while Maid chuckled at Naruto's boldness. "You just hide behind these walls in your safe haven, and you allowed innocent people to be slaughtered. This is why I dislike political leaders. You simply order the shinobi around. Akage leads them into battle. A true leader must be willing to die for his own men," Naruto stated with a neutral voice, crossing his arms over his chest. "Enough," the water daimyo said. "Kill them all," the daimyo ordered, extending his arm and pointing towards Naruto. Naruto didn't even open his eyes for a few seconds, and when he did, the view didn't exactly surprise him. Every single shinobi and samurai was rooted in place. "I said kill them," the daimyo roared, but the shinobi didn't move. Maybe they were scared of facing both Mei and Naruto, or maybe they were having second thoughts about everything they learned here. "Drop your weapons and let us finish this," Mei said. A few shinobi recoiled from her request. They shared looks between each other until they dropped their kunais and swords. Once they were disarmed, they dropped to their knees. "Cowards!" the daimyo yelled towards his forces. "No, Lord Daimyo," Mei said in a sweet voice. Maybe too sweet. "They are warriors. My warriors and mine alone," Mei said, and made her way towards the door while the shinobi and samurai did nothing to stop her. The dragons and Naruto secured the perimeter and made sure that the daimyo would not escape. With a final scream from the daimyo, the war was truly over. End of flashback. Once the daimyo had been dealt with, a new worthy replacement was found, and everything started calming down. The new daimyo started working on getting new trading agreements with other nations, trying to bring Kiri from this dark hole that it lived in for so many years. The Mist Village was bursting with activity. The damage from Naruto's siege had been minimal, and as such, the buildings only needed minimal repairs here and there. There was a different ambient around Kiri, where once people lived depressed and scared of the tyrannical leader, now they were smiling and laughing. It was an unnaturally sunny day in Kiri. Maybe it was the outcome of Naruto using his new and improved lightning jutsu by drawing energy straight from the atmosphere. Naruto was walking down the village with his beautiful girlfriend in his arm. The armor was long gone and was replaced by civilian clothes. Naruto was wearing black pants and a dark blue shirt. Over that, he was wearing a red trench coat with black flames on the bottom. On the back of his trench coat, the Senju clan symbol was proudly displayed in black color as well. Looking at his side, he couldn't help but gasp at what Hinata had picked. She was wearing what she called a gala dress or something. It was all confusing to Naruto, but he didn't seem to complain much. It was just a dark blue long dress that showed a little bit of her cleavage, her dark blue hair flowing in the wind. They were walking towards the Mizukage Tower where there was a small party, if you could call it that, to celebrate the end of the war and the election of Mei Terumi as the new Mizukage. The choice of the new leader had been swift and with overwhelming majority, minus the 5% of the Mist Village disagreed of Mei Terumi being chosen as the new Mizukage. Naruto and Hinata smiled and replied at the people that greeted them on their walk. Naruto and his dragons had become somewhat famous over the duration of their stay. The 8 heroes of Kiri, as they were being called. Mei tried her best to uncover what lied beneath the masks, but hit dead ends every time. At least she knew of Naruto and Hinata. Mei had made them honorary members of her village and said they were welcome to visit any time they wished. Both of them arrived at the Mizukage's tower to see a large red carpet on the ground. The other dragons were already there. It seemed a bit weird for the dragons to be wearing masks, but they had their identity to preserve. "You took your sweet time," Mei said with her hands on her hips. After all, the dragons were the guests of honor in this small event. Sorry about that, Naruto replied, scratching the back of his head. Hinata and I took a little too much time getting ready, Naruto explained to Mei, who narrowed her eyes. Surely you didn't want us to show up in our battle armor, Naruto rhetorically asked, and Mei nodded, dragging them both inside. They ate and chatted happily as the afternoon got by. It was finally night and the moon was shining high up in the sky. It was a cloudless night, so Naruto had a pretty good view of the stars and the moon from the top of the Mizukage Tower. Naruto sighed as he looked up at the starry sky. He was leaning on the metal fence, spinning a kunai in his hand. It's kind of funny that Naruto was wearing civilian clothes, and yet he still had weapons with him. So, this is where you were, Naruto heard and turned around to see Hinata approaching. Why have you been hiding up here? Hinata asked as she joined Naruto by the metal fences, looking up at the sky. No reason, Naruto lied as he sighed and focused on the sky once again. Just trying to clear my mind, Naruto explained, and that didn't fool Hinata. We've known each other and lived together for nearly 10 years. You really think it hides something from me? Hinata rhetorically asked from Naruto's chuckle. I guess, Naruto replied and gathered his thoughts before answering. It's just, I don't know, I feel guilty for killing everyone, Naruto said, sighing, and looked up. They were innocent people, and even Yagura had nothing to do with this. It was Tobi all along. He used Aisubu as a medium to control him, Naruto explained, and Hinata's eyes widened as she never knew. Naruto didn't tell anyone about Yagura being controlled. When I saw you there, lying there on the floor, I don't know, I felt as if something inside of me snapped, Naruto said, and Hinata just heard him, holding his hand firmly. I knew I could bring you back even if you died, but just seeing you there on the ground, unconscious and in pain, I got so angry that I didn't even think properly and just rushed off to the village to kill Yagura, Naruto explained, sighing. You went God Almighty on them, didn't you? Hinata softly asked, and Naruto chuckled. You know me too well, Naruto said, giving a hollow chuckle. I guess Itachi was right after all, Naruto said, and got a confused look from Hinata and decided to explain. I knew Itachi back from before the massacre. I had the Sharingan, so sometimes I watched the Uchiha train so I could learn how to use my eyes. One time, I heard him say this to his brother Sasuke. Being the best isn't all it's made out to be. When you're strong, you become arrogant and withdrawn, even if what you sought after was your dream, Naruto said. He was right. I got so caught up in my own power that I started comparing myself to gods. I may not have become arrogant, but it was only a matter of time, Naruto explained. This is why I know that you aren't a god, Naruto, Hinata replied, and Naruto looked curiously towards her. A god doesn't feel remorse or guilt. To them, we are nothing more than insects. We were created by them, and they feel as if they own us. By owning us, they can dispose of us as trash without a care in the world, Hinata explained, and Naruto listened intently. Feelings is what makes us human, and the fact that you feel guilty after what you've done is proof of that, Hinata explained. I suppose, Naruto replied. It's just, I have absolute control over life and death. To me, it makes life seem like nothing, and yet I feel guilty over what I've done. Isn't it strange? Naruto rhetorically asked. I can take and give life as I wish, and yet, every time I take life, I feel empty inside, Naruto explained. That is the way of the Shinobi, Hinata started. No matter on how much we kid ourselves, we are weapons. We train and kill so that others don't have to. We kill so that our loved ones can live peacefully. We kill so that people of Konoha can live in peace, Hinata said, and Naruto looked at her. Hinata had really grown up from her old shy personality. Where she once pulled her strength from Naruto, now she had her own. Everything you have done has been for the betterment of Kiri. It was best to end this war quickly than to further the bloodshed. It is the duty of the Shinobi to carry this burden. Hinata finished and locked eyes with Naruto, losing herself in his blue eyes. And you don't have to feel empty or withdrawn. You have me, Hinata stated, and pulled Naruto for a soft kiss under the gaze of the bright moon of the sky. Naruto forgot all about his problems and focused solely on his girlfriend. He wrapped his arms around her waist and pulled her closer, deepening the feeling of bliss and love. Hinata wrapped her hands around his neck, pulling him closer as well. They were lost in their own world that they didn't notice the presence of the dragons that witnessed the whole thing from the beginning. Aw, Kushina and Mito fawned over the couple kissing under the moonlight. Naruto and Hinata split when they heard that sound. Thanks a lot for ruining the moment, Hinata cutely pouted, making everyone chuckle. Come on, let's go back. Mei's speech is about to begin, Yellow said, and Naruto and Hinata followed, still holding hands. Nothing would split them apart, not even death. Mizukage's tower. Excellent, Ao said as he watched the dragon step in through the large double doors. Now that our guests of honor are here, we can begin, Ao said, and the crowd quieted down and listened to what Ao had to say. Today is a day of celebration. Today marks the official end of the Bloodline War, and the rise of our new Mizukage. Several days ago, Yagura was defeated after waging war against his own people for several years, Ao said, and a few people lowered their heads. But that is the past. Today, we're here, and we will rebuild. So, without further ado, I present you Mei Terumi, the 5th Mizukage, Ao said, and the crowd erupted in cheers. From the side door, a woman walked out. Mei was wearing her traditional blue dress, but was also wearing her Kage hat, a dark blue hat with the kanji for water imprinted on the front of the hat. The hat itself was proof that she was the new leader of this country, the new Mizukage. Everyone fell silent as the new Mizukage made her way towards the podium. Mei took a deep breath and started. Kirigekure, we are finally united. This country has been split for far too long. Under the rule of Yagura, the water country had been slowly withering away and this war didn't help. But let's forget the past and work into building the future. I promise I will do my best to lead this country and village to a brighter tomorrow. For I am Mei Terumi, the 5th Mizukage, Mei stated, and the crowd cheered. Everyone was so happy that the war was over, and they start fresh, so to speak. Mei raised her hand and the crowd fell silent once again. Though this victory isn't only ours to celebrate. This war wouldn't have been won so easily, and only God knows how much time we would have had to endure Yagura's reign without Konoha's help. I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to the 8 dragons of the leaf, Mei said, and all the dragons rose from their seats. I present you the 8 heroes of the mist, Mei shouted, and the whole crowd cheered for their heroes. Who would have thought that Konoha Shinobi would be considered heroes of another foreign country? But this was the start of an alliance that would last for decades to come. This was the first step of the peace the Sage of Six Paths had always wanted. As long as I'm Mizukage, they will always be welcome here and in our country. As per our agreement towards the Hokage, Kiri is now fully allied with the Leaf, Mei said, and everyone smiled. And I hope this treaty lasts for years to come, Mei said, and the crowd cheered once again. Now, let's party and get drunk, Mei shouted, and everyone chuckled. You know, Hinata started getting the attention of everyone. We never danced, Hinata said. Naruto raised an eyebrow. You never said anything about liking it, Naruto said, confused. Naruto, every girl wants to be like a princess, even if it's only momentarily, Hinata replied, and Naruto nodded. Where'd you learn to dance? Naruto asked, curious. The academy, of course. Did you think that the seduction class was only about looking good and charming? Hinata rhetorically asked. But Naruto shrugged his shoulders. Besides, I did learn the basics when I lived in the Hyuga clan, Hinata explained. Sorry, Hinata, but I don't know how to dance, Naruto replied timidly, scratching the back of his head. You really are a knucklehead, Hinata said playfully, hitting his shoulder. Your Sharingan can copy more than jutsu, you know, Hinata said, amused, and Naruto blinked and blinked again as his brain caught up with her. I'm an idiot, Naruto said, shaking his head and activating his Sharingan. Maybe, Hinata replied, giggling, but you're my idiot, Hinata said, pecking him on the lips. Lead on, princess, Naruto said, and placed his arms around Hinata's waist while Hinata placed her own arm on his shoulder. Naruto easily caught up with the steps and both danced perfectly and in sync. They danced for what seemed to be hours, never looking away from each other. They were lost in each other's arms. Eventually the music came to an end and they split for a small break and went towards the rest of the dragons. We have to do something, Naruto heard Green or Hashirama say as they arrived near them. What's up? Naruto asked, and Green pointed towards Blue, or Togurama, who was sitting down at a table silently watching everyone. I don't follow, Naruto said, confused, looking at his great uncle. We have to do something about him. Even back in the day, he was always sulky and brooding around in the corners. If it wasn't for my sensing abilities, I could swear he was no Uchiha, Green said, and Naruto's sweat dropped. What do you propose? Black or Mito asked, curious as to what her husband had planned. A woman, Hashirama said, nodding his head, confident of his choice. You wanna set him up with a worker? Yellow or Minato asked, tilting his head to the side confused. Red or Kushina smacked him in the head and dropped him to the floor. Why are all men idiots? Red rhetorically asked. You can make space-time juice that allows instant teleportation, but understand women? Nah, Kushina almost shouted. Even after you rescued me, I had to do many things for you to realize I liked you, Kushina said, and Minato pouted while everyone chuckled. I know just the person for him, Naruto said with his eyes twinkling in mischief. And who might that be? Hashirama asked, and Naruto pointed to a woman with red hair and a blue dress. Oh, she's perfect for him, Hinata said, thinking about the new couple. Sure, until she gets pissed off and melts his balls, Minato sarcastically replied. Well, you give it a rest, Kushina replied, smacking Minato again. Now, how should we do this? Kushina asked, and the dragons began plotting Tobirama's fate, while he was completely unaware. 5 minutes later, everyone was in position. Get your ass up, Black, Mito shouted as she appeared next to the brooding Tobirama. What do you want, Black? Tobirama asked, slightly afraid of her tone. Hell hath no fear, he is an angry Uzumaki, or Senju for that matter. We're going to dance, now up, Mito said, and Tobirama complained. Why don't you just do this with my brother? He is your husband after all, Tobirama complained, as he just wanted some peace of mind. Now, Mito growled, and Tobirama jumped to his feet. That's better, Mito said, and dragged him to the dance floor. Tobirama and Mito were dancing, much against Tobirama's will, but he thought this would be the safest way. Here, Hinata said as she approached him. Have a drink, Hinata offered. And Tobirama was about to refuse until he saw the murderous look in Mito's eyes. Even through the mask, he could feel her gaze drawing a hole in his skull should he refuse. Tobirama shook his head and gulped down the sake. I wonder when this nightmare is going to end, Tobirama thought to himself as someone poked him on his back. Heads up, Naruto said. Tobirama got confused until he felt Naruto's foot on his back. Tobirama flew through the room. Naruto used his gravity manipulation to make sure Tobirama didn't collide with anyone, and found his way into the arms of the right person. It only took a second for Tobirama to collide with someone's back. Oh my, Mace stated, looking amused at below. You know, you don't have to crash in on me to ask for a dance. I'm not that hard to approach, Mason offered him her hand for a dance. Tobirama looked conflicted and thought best to accept, otherwise his assets might be in danger. I'm gonna kill that brat, Blue angrily thought as he took her hand and led her to the dance floor. Success, Naruto shouted, and every dragon cheered. I'm a Gekir. In a dark cave, a lone figure could be seen walking towards another who was by the door. The one by the door had spiky orange hair with multiple piercings on his nose, chin, and ears. He was wearing a long black cloak with red clouds. He was Pain, the leader of the Akatsuki. Pain, the other person called out as he approached. He had the same cloak with spiky black hair and had an orange mask. It's time, Toby said, and Pain nodded, flashing their hand seals. In some unknown cave, 10 spectral figures could be seen standing in the dark. Every single one of them had the standard black cloak with red clouds. They were standing in a perfect circle. Before we begin, I would like to introduce our newest member, Toby, Pain said as Toby waved at everybody. Toby is a good boy, Toby cheerfully stated, being in his orange mask. I guess these meetings won't be so dull now, Kisame said, laughing while Itachi remained a stoic person. As of now, we are back to 10 members. Deidara, Satsuri, Kakazu, Hidan, Itachi, Kisame, Zetsu, Toby, Konan, and myself, Pain started. It's time we begin our plans and start hunting down the Jinchuriki. As of now, both the Ichibi, Nibi, Hachibi, and the Kibi are out of our grasp, Pain said, until he was interrupted. Why don't we simply just bomb the villages and then take them, Deidara said, molding clay in his hands. You're a fool, Deidara, Kakazu started. The Hachibi has full control over his Biju, and he never leaves Kumagekure, coupled that with his brother A, the 4th Raikage, and it would be impossible for us to take them, Kakazu said, and Pain nodded, knowing that it was true. The same thing could be said of Konoha. According to my spies, the Kyuubi brat has grown strong, Pain said. How strong? Itachi asked, curious about the growth of Naruto. Strong enough to take down 2,000 shinobi and Yager himself when he conquered the Mist Village alone, Pain said, and Itachi's eyes widened. You mean to tell me that the Kyuubi brat stormed the Mist Village and defeated Yager and his army? Kisame asked, not believing what he had heard. Yes, Pain replied simply. He's going to be a pain in the ass to capture, Kisame replied, laughing. The fact that the Kyuubi brat is now being called the god of shinobi, and that he has a flea on sight order in the bingo book is proof of his strength. Besides that, he has also full control over his Biju. Not only that, but he is always in the presence of at least his girlfriend, Hinata Hyuga, who is also considered an S-rank shinobi and not to be taken lightly, Pain explained. I'll say, that damn girl defeated my second in command, forcing herself into using Izanagi, Toby thought to himself. Things weren't looking good. As of now, these four are out of our reach. In the meantime, Hidan, Kakuzu, head for Taki and capture Fu, the Jinchuriki of the Nanabi. Itachi, Kisame head for the Earth Country and scout for both the Yonbi and Gobi. Deidara, Sasori go to Water Country and scout for Utakata, the Jinchuriki of the Rokubi, Pain ordered. And once he received acknowledgments from everybody, he left. Back in Ame after the meeting was over. You know that only you can stand up to the QB brat, right? Toby asked of course Pain. I don't think he is as powerful as you say, but if necessary, I'll be the one to capture him, Pain replied and walked off. Your time is coming to an end, Nagato, Toby thought darkly and warped away. May's bedroom dawned. Everything was dark and quiet in this bedroom. As the sun came up in the sky, a few beams managed to sneak through the blinds and awake May from her slumber. May groggily woke up and brought her hands to her face to block the light. My head, May said, nursing her head and rising to a sitting position. Once she sat down in her bed, the sheets fell down to reveal her figure. May looked down and found it weird as she never slept that way, but then again, she couldn't remember much from last night. May tried to rise, but found herself stuck as the sheets wouldn't budge. She looked to her right to find someone else lying there asleep, and judging by his lack of clothes, he was also sleeping in the same manner. Oh God, May said, covering herself up and shaking the man awake. Tobirama groggily opened his eyes and looked up to see the shocked face of May staring at him. Oh God, May yelled when she saw Tobirama's face and his blue mask on the floor. Shit, I'm going to kill that brat, Tobirama thought to himself, and wondered how he was going to walk away from this one with his assets intact.